So in the chat, Brett makes a point that Mike Norvell is trying to do that. His high school recruiting has improved every year. I would agree with that. So right now, class of 2025 On3 industry rankings, Florida State sits at number 11. Last year, they had more top 200 recruits than they'd had since Jimbo Fisher was the coach. So they have gotten better. They were number 12 in the industry rankings last year. That has gotten better as Mike Norvell has gone on. But the problem is there's not a group ready to just plug in right now. And that's what Georgia and Ohio State and Alabama have, is they're always ready to plug some people in. And it might not all be freshmen that they're plugging in. They might have guys that have been there in the program for 2-3 years that are ready to go, but there also might be a superstar freshman that you're going to play.
And Andy, I can also accept the fact that it takes time. Like, I mean, he's not that deep into his tenure, and Florida State was a mess when he took over, and they were literally on the brink and should have been in the playoff a year ago. So yeah. I'm not saying that I think that all is lost for Mike Norvell, or that he's a bad coach, or that, you know, I wouldn't believe in his program to return to prominence in the future. But I do think that it's going to be kind of a Billy Napier discussion too, of like, understanding what you need to do is one thing, right? Or saying that you understand what you need to do is one thing, but the next thing is going out and actually doing it. So, you know, it's nice to say that it's been improving every year, and I think that's factually accurate. I think their classes were like 23, 22, and 21. I don't know what order it was. And then it jumped up to number 12. So you do see a tangible increase or improvement in the output of their recruiting results. But it's got to be 7-6-5, 7-6-5 if it ever wants to be the Florida State that we grew up watching. And he's got to get it done.
Well, here's the thing. It's not a Billy Napier situation. They did go 13-0 last year. They did win the ACC.
That is true.
Billy Napier's never been above 500 at Florida. So those two things aren't comparable. And what Billy Napier inherited was not as bad as what Mike Norvell inherited. Mike Norvell inherited a very deep hole left by Jimbo Fisher and Willie Taggart. And he got him out of the hole, and he got him 13-0. So, look, if you're going to have a rebuild, that's fine. But you better not have another rebuild next year. And you better get out of this. And the one thing about Mike Norvell that we've seen so far, I go back to his second season. His second season started out about as bad as you can start out. You know, they had the loss to Notre Dame in overtime, and you're like, oh, maybe they're better. Oh, no, then they lose to Jacksonville State. Like, they could have just completely bagged it. That team actually did get better as the season went on. And that's what I want to talk to you about next, because there is a way out of this for Florida State. Their players are not all terrible. They can play better.
Mm-hmm.
Can they try another quarterback? And this is an interesting question, because somebody in the chat asked this last night, and I don't know that we answered it to anybody's satisfaction. So I'd like to discuss this now. In the NIL era, when you go out and get a transfer quarterback, are you more beholden to play that person over someone you recruited because you gave them some deal? I am of the mind that it's not show business, it's not show family, it's not show friends, it's show business. And the fact that you're paying him makes it even more easy to say, you're not performing up to snuff. We're going to try this other guy, and you can suck it up.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. And it does seem like when you whittle down the motivation for the payments, it is to win the football games, right?
Yes.
So you're paying money, you're exchanging money to get players that will give you a higher likelihood of winning games. And if there is another player on the team that you think does that for you, I don't really think it matters where the money is being allocated. The money has been spent, and now it's time to see that money in action. Obviously, there were people on Florida State message boards, from what I saw on Twitter last night, that were asking if there were any lawyers that could sue to recoup their NIL donations, which I thought was quite funny.
Their lawyers are all busy.
Yeah, they're suing the ACC guys. But no, it is an interesting dynamic. And the other thing that's interesting about this, Andy, is that like Brock Glenn was like a really good recruit too. So it's not like they have some guy who is just, sitting in the wings that has no chance of playing. Like, I legitimately don't know if it could have been worse at times last night.
Well, and that's the thing. There were some drops, but there were also some moments where DJ just missed wide open players. And look, you've got no game on Saturday, and then Memphis comes to town. If Florida State plays in the Memphis game the way they played in the first 2 games, they are going to lose that game. They're going to lose it. They need to have an open quarterback competition these next 2 weeks and figure out who their guy is.
It just kind of reminds me of watching Clemson during DJU's.
He wasn't this bad at Clemson. I swear. I watched those games.
It's not that he was this bad. And honestly, there might be something to just being in his own head now, too. Could you imagine the pressure and the mockery that he's facing? Like, he isn't as bad as to miss the receivers that he missed in the end zone last night. Like, honestly, like, there are high school quarterbacks that would have made that throw. Sometimes people make mistakes. They get in their head. They're nervous. They're putting pressure on themselves. I think he's probably in the pressure cooker. There's no question. But there is this thing where you feel like there's so much potential with him. He's such a big-bodied dude with a big arm that you do like it. Just you're constantly waiting for it to click, and the clicking just doesn't happen. It just does not happen. But this guy's had far more of a runway of opportunity than Joe Milton ever did in college in terms of playing time and starts made, right? So, and Joe Milton was winning the Patriots quarterback battle for about 3 hours there during somebody texted me, Joe Milton's going to win the Patriots starting job. And I just wrote back, you don't watch college football.
That's a tell me you don't watch college football without telling me you don't watch college football. We got a statement here from Brandon.
Okay.
And I feel like we should have learned our lesson at this point. Brandon says, if FSU wins a national championship this year, I'll eat a pile of dog crap live on your show. Be careful what you say, Brandon. Be careful what you say. You got to be, especially with the eating things. You can't talk like that.
Is there any internet sleuths out there that can take this man's picture and track down his social security number so you can't delete your online profile? We're going to get you. We're going to get you.
Well, right. Yeah. Jack Mack at Barstool is all over at 321 Noel. We'll talk about 321 Noel in a second, but we need to cleanse our palates and talk about something that we'd rather eat, something that is pleasing to eat, something that is amazing to eat. That, of course, Wendy's Saucy Nuggs. This show is presented by Wendy's, and you've had Wendy's Nugs dipped in sauce, but have you had them covered in sauce? Wendy's new Saucy Nuggs take the crispy and spicy nugs you love and turn them up to 11. Choose between flavors like buffalo, honey barbecue, garlic, parm, or if you're a real heat seeker here, try the spicy ghost pepper only on Wendy's signature spicy nugs. I dare you. That's 7 delicious ways to try the nugs you already love. Pick a flavor, grab some extra napkins, and prepare to nug like you've never nugged before. For a whole new way to nug, it's got to be Wendy's at participating U.S. Wendy's. Thank you so much for watching. Just a reminder, subscribe to this channel right here so you never miss an episode of Andy Staples On 3. And oh, by the way, watch all the other great videos on the On 3 Sports YouTube channel.